Happy Buckeye Friday, everybody. It is Ezekiel Elliott or Jelani Thurman days away from kickoff. So we're doing our Blitz to 500. We're about 150 subscribers short, Dan. I feel like I'm going to lose my bet with my wife, so no extra game unless somebody finds a way to find me 150 subscribers or you like make a bunch of fake accounts or something. But if you could, subscribe,
faith,
like,
man.
share.
I think if we double up what we've done over the last 2 weeks, we'll get pretty dang close.
Yeah, we would. That's fair. So, yeah, we are 15 days away. I'm excited. It's a rainy, dreary day in Ohio. It was like 61 when I got up, so you could kind of feel it a little bit in the air. Football practice starts for my son Monday night, and I've got roped into coaching again. So, anyways,
don't do it. Don't do it.
It's happened. It's already done. It's a done deal. I signed the papers.
Holy daddy ball, Batman.
Yeah, here we go. So Dan, how are you? We'll talk about the presser in a second, but overall thoughts.
I'm good, man. I'm real quick announcement. Juck's got a bunch of people coming on his show for like 10-minute live segments tomorrow afternoon, before and after the David Sanders commitment. So I'll be going. I think I'm going in on the front end. I'm going to call my shot and live with it. And so hopefully that'll help get us some more subscribers.
Yeah, sweet, man. Yeah. Well, I'm not wholly. We might as well just talk about David Sanders. I'm not out on it yet because this morning D Sanchez said, "Have faith." So I screenshotted it.
I'm waiting for reports. He apparently kicked off his high school season last night. I'm waiting for reports or pictures of him wearing an Ohio State sleeve so everybody could go get delirious. Listen, man, I've been pretty consistent with this. I don't think anybody outside that family knows where he's going right now.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that flipped the script for me was that Josh Petty $800,000 a year. Like, Ohio State was not going to match that. So if what we were hearing for David Sanders is actually true, they must, really believe in the kid. And so I don't know what I don't know, but there are reports and they're a little bit everywhere, but the Tennessee has offered some other items besides the NIL, some housing and some other things. So
there's nothing they can offer that we can't. I mean, I can't think of something. I'm sure there is, but
proximity.
Like this whole housing thing is
it's an interesting narrative. Yeah.
I mean, the Schottensteins own one of the top 10 home builders in the country.
Yeah.
Like they can build they can build the whole family a compound if they want to,
Yeah. It's a really interesting narrative. I don't know where that comes from. I mean, if this was 2006 and this was Reggie Bush, okay, the housing thing, okay, because NIL wasn't legal then. But
listen, I coached high school football in 2010 and 11 in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And my coaching staff had just come up from Tallahassee. They were at North Florida Christian School, and they had a kid by the name of Travis Blanks. He was a top 5 player overall in the country. He's a safety. Just an absolute stud. UGA offered his family a house then.
Yeah.
Okay. He went to Clemson. What did Clemson offer? Like, I mean, this stuff's been going on forever.
Yeah.
But you know what it doesn't do? Those type of shady dealings.
Medical school.
They don't create an unfair advantage on the field like a cheating scandal would.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. I mean, knowing the opponent's signs so that you're there and yep. Anyways. Oh, so Dan, Ryan Day had a presser yesterday. I think several. Yeah, that's the rumor. Several of us.
How did I miss that?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Did he talk about anything? Did he talk about anything interesting?
Not really. Same thing we've always talked about. Several of us have been predicting that I jokingly said he wouldn't do it yesterday just to piss everybody off because everybody was all in arms about naming who the starting quarterback was. So, I have a little bit of snarkasm when it comes to some stuff. But, yeah, by now everybody knows. So Will Howard, starting quarterback for the Akron game.
Just like I've been saying all along.
Yeah.
and I've been rooting for the entire time.
Exactly.
So I have a little
Well,
white
yeah,
light like Men in
yeah.
Black. I'm just going to go ahead and flash it.
Flash it. Don't forget. Yeah, everybody forgets. Well, I jotted some things down. I rewatched it too because I wanted to make sure I got the notes right. But he said that the his decision was based on an aggregate of 27 practices. Will graded out ahead of all the others. Now I'm going to stop right there because Dan, you and I have some intel and have been told before that like if they're grading them, where are the grades?
Yeah,
And
I'm not going to sit here and say they have not been grading them. I have been told that they weren't sharing the grades
that's a better way to do it. Yeah.
with the quarterbacks on a regular basis. I was told going into the scrimmage that they were supposed to get grades.
Mm.
And then coming out of the scrimmage, I was told they did not get grades, but none of them graded out as a champion. So I don't know. And listen, none of this is to throw, whatever the word is,
Shade.
junk on the decision. I mean, listen, all the people that said Will Howard was brought in here to be the starter, they weren't wrong. But the biggest issue that a lot of us had from the beginning is that there was this perception and this narrative that he was going to be handed the job without earning it.
Mm.
I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so now
that
either.
happened. I want to be very clear. A lot of people have asked in private chats and on Twitter, do you think this was fair this year? And I do. I absolutely do think it was fair. Do I think they started on equal footing? No. But I don't think they should have started on equal footing. I mean, Will had 4 years under his belt and a Big 12 championship. He's started, 20 some games in his career. So I don't, I'm not. There's this whole equality versus equity argument going on in our country right now. I'm not for everybody starting out on equal footing or despite what they've done in the past. If they're if you had two guys that were apples to apples, sure, then they start out on equal footing and they compete. It's not the case here, right? I mean, Devin doesn't have the game experience that Will does, so I didn't expect them to start out on equal footing. I do think Devin was given every opportunity to make the decision hard and to win the job. I think Will would have had to turn the ball over in fall camp the way that we heard he did in spring for that to have happened, and he hasn't. To his credit,
it's been very conservative.
He has been conservative. I'm hearing that started to change a little bit over the last 3 to 4 or 5 practices, maybe. Not confirmed, but some of the video that's come out would suggest that. Listen, I'm excited for the season.
Yep.
I mean, take personal feelings out of it. I mean, yes, I did root and do root for Devin Brown, and I will continue to root for Devin Brown. I think he will have a few Kenny Guyton moments for us this year. I mean, Will does have a history of getting banged up and missing games here and there, so I think it's going to be really important for him to be ready to go, and I think he will be.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a good showcase for his next stop. I don't expect Devin to be here next year.
I don't either.
We can talk about that on another show, what it does to our quarterback room. Our quarterback, we don't need to dig into this right now, but our quarterback room is going to be really, really, really thin going into next season.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. It'd be interesting to see how that shakes out. So the things that I picked up from Ryan Day, he said, you feel Will in the huddle, which is an interesting thing because he said that he's now got an understanding of the offense. And in spring, we kept hearing that he did not. So that's a flip in reverse there. Mentioned the threat with the arms and the legs. And then he talked about how he's executing on and off the field and how he's changed his body and has been excited about leading the team. So all of those things sound really good. He has changed his body. He went from 249 to 233, I think. So, I
mean, look, here's the deal. He had a rough spring.
Yeah, he did. He really did. Let's call it what it is.
And you even hear people on the beat ask questions referencing the rough spring and what did he do to turn things around. So we're not the only ones that are saying that. And I know enough people who were at the spring practices that have, told us he would. Now, is that to be expected? Sure. I mean, the new playbook and everything else like that is to be expected. Going against arguably the top defense, one or two defenses in the country, I think they'll be number one when the dust settles this year. Is going to make for a rough transition. But it appears to me, by all accounts, they gave the kid a laundry list of things that he needed to accomplish over the summer going into fall camp. And to his credit, he's done that.
Right.
And I think that started with his physical makeover. I don't believe him that he was 249.
Okay.
I don't believe that at all, man. I'm pretty sure when that kid came in here and at some point in the spring, particularly in January before spring, I'm pretty sure that kid was comfortably distant from 249.
Okay.
Not on the positive side.
Not on the Jared Lorenzen side though, right? We're not.
Well, no, I mean it was on that side of the scale, but he wasn't that
okay.
big. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was closer to 260 when he got here.
That would have been my guess. I would have said north of 255. So
I mean, let me put it this way: the kid's 6'5".
Yeah, he's a big kid.
I'm 6 foot, and I'm like in horrible shape right now at 250. So that he was closer to 260.
I got you.
But man, God bless those young genes, man. He turned it around. He did what he had to do, and he looks good.
Yeah, it's amazing the way that I think back in college or even high school where I could just drop 10 pounds by not eating for a couple days. So, anyways, so I mentioned this and I heard it on another pod. Basically, that how fortunate Ohio State is to really only have basically they have 20 of the 22 positions figured out. Now I'll say 21 with the quarterback. Because of what we brought back and because of what we had in depth on both sides of the ball. So, and that more or less there are no other teams in the country that are in that situation. So big year, big things planned. But that leads me to the other position. And so you and I talked before we even got on air. So Ryan Day mentioned, and Chip Kelly both mentioned Tegra Shabola and how he's come a long way. He's made big strides. He's, I think, even mentioned taking the most reps, performed as a starting level player, but that Seth McLaughlin has been the most consistent offensive lineman, but definitely called out Tegra, mentioned Tegra by name. All signs are pointing to Tegra beating out Carson Hinsman for the right guard starting position. So I don't like that. But it's because I view Tegra as a tackle, and I think that he originally, I guess in my estimation, he was going to be the backup right or left tackle. And so if you start him at guard and you have to kick him out to tackle, then you're bringing in Hinsman at right guard or whoever, and then you have Tegra out at tackle. So now you've replaced half your offensive line. Now we don't agree on this one. So
no, we don't agree with this one. I want Tegra at guard. I want the 5 best out there. That was one thing that Stud was really good at, is he just put the 5 best guys out there. Remember when we had 5 tackles essentially starting across the offensive line?
Yeah, Paris Johnson, started inside. I mean,
Paris and Dewan both started inside.
Yeah.
So I just want the 5 best guys out there right now. I do think Hinsman's behind the 8 ball a little bit because for all accounts suggest that he's
been ill.
He has missed the most time with this hand, foot, and mouth virus that's been going around. And Tegra's taking advantage of it. And I want Tegra on the field. I want that kid's mentality and that kid's nastiness on the field. I've got no problem with it. There was something mentioned that Servald is now basically at tackle.
Yeah.
When everybody thought he was going to be the backup guard. So I think this virus has forced a little bit of cross training when that might not have necessarily been the plan going into fall. And I think that's nothing but an added benefit for us to provide some depth. But I do want to talk about the Justin Fry thing. I told our buddy Sean, he asked me a question on Twitter. He was going back and forth with Juck. about Justin Fry. I do want to get into that, but
Yep.
we can let to
Well,
finish this up.
yeah.
I think that I'll be surprised at this point if Tegra's not starting at right guard. And it sounds to me like we're going to end up with a little bit more depth coming out of fall than we anticipated, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think the illness has forced what we would call inconsistency, but that's actually ended up being good because now you've gotten to see a lot of reps with a lot of different matchups and mashups of the offensive line, and now getting everybody back 2 weeks to go before the kickoff against Akron, you're going to get your best five. And I absolutely love the fact that they have Luke Montgomery repping at center like that. I think his future's there. I think he's another Luke Whippler, Billy Price kind of guy. When all is said and done, I think he ends up, being that type of center, can move, can pull, and that fits well with Chip's offense. And Chip likes guys that can move their feet on the offensive line, so I think that helps. And yeah, I mean I think that some of my, I guess, desire for Hinsman to be the starting right guard is his relationship with Seth McLaughlin and how well they play in their chemistry. And there's still time to go, but it definitely sounded like Ryan Day was doing the, all signs point this direction for Tegra to be the starting right guard. So, but yeah, Saraveld kicking out. We mentioned a couple shows ago that he had, played at left tackle when because of the illness, which we thought originally was surprising because I thought he would end up being the backup left guard behind Donovan Jackson. And I don't want to get too far into the depth, but we do have more there than we thought, which is good. Like all of that is good.
Yeah, I'm excited for the offensive line and what they're going to do. I think they're way better than people. Listen, there's a recency bias, and what's the most recent memory of our offensive line? It's the Missouri game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone needs to take a chill pill and recognize why that happened.
Yeah.
And then just the progress that these guys have made off the field, in spring, then off the field over the summer. And then I don't know if you noticed, man, but Chip alluded to this, but Jim Knowles during his press conference yesterday, I don't know if somebody put, a Quaalude in his coffee or what, but I mean, he was so somber compared to what we normally see from him.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed as if somebody kicked his puppy, and I can't help but to think it has something to do with the comment that Chip said, the defense had kicked their tail, the first portion of practices here, and that most recently this week that the offense started to give it back to him.
Yeah, I was listening. I don't remember what I was listening to, but basically the sum of the whole was that Jim Knowles now, if the offense makes a play or two, he's trying to figure out how to not let them make that play. But it had been happening. It's actually happening more than it at any point between spring and about a week ago. And so he's been all of a sudden, there's been a change in what is happening in the offense. So a lot of really good things, Dan, and I'm going to stick with the offensive line. So, there's obviously development happening behind the scenes, whether or not that's because Chip is here and, the Justin Fry thing is a struggle for me because I know that Fry had his best run at UCLA and best run game under Chip Kelly. However, is this a culmination of bringing in Chip Kelly's ideas, philosophy, running game style, and ability to put our players in the best position to be successful, and less about Justin Fry? Because let's face it, his recruiting chops have been not great. I mean, Carter Lowe is anything but a slam dunk because he's from Toledo.
Let's talk about this. All right. So okay. I told Sean we would do this. Sean asked my.
I was trying to tee you up.
He suggested that I seem level-headed. There's a lot of people in my past that owe me an apology.
Hugs all around.
Who don't agree with him. But with that being said, I don't think, the Justin Fry issue, it's not cut and dry, right? It's not a blanket statement to
Okay.
regard him. So let's break it up into pieces here, right?
Sure.
Let's start with development first. I think Justin Fry has done a really good job with developing in the short time that he's been here. And I think the examples to look at, okay, are, granted, he only had 1 year with and Paris is Paris, but he only had 1 year with Paris and 1 year with Dewan and 1 year with Luke. But all three of those guys went in and made NFL rosters. Obviously, Paris was a first-round draft pick, but Dewan was in the fourth, and he was all rookie.
And Whippler was fifth, right? They're
Whippler
both with
was
the
a
Browns.
fifth round.
Yeah,
Whippler's out for the year now.
Yeah, bummer, man. He was really coming on too.
But now some people will argue like, well, he was only with them for 1 year. How much did he really develop them? And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
But let's look at, I think you look at last year. Jimmy Simmons came over from San Diego State, which is a joke of a program compared to the likes of Ohio State. Good, solid group of five program.
Group of five, yeah.
Once every 10 years, they have a, really nice season.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that he came in out of shape. He came in with horrible technique.
Yep.
He came in with a horrible tendency to jump off sides and false start. All of that's been resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people come at us in the comments when I say this, but I'm telling you right now, Josh Simmons, he will be a first-round draft pick next year.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but
no.
And then you look at, Carson Hinsman started last year at center, a position he hadn't played the previous year as a true freshman. He started and played the entire year as a true sophomore and did well.
Yeah.
And was probably going to be the starting right guard this year if he didn't have this virus, and will probably play a lot still. Josh Fryer, he's the wild card, man, because he consistently had moments where he looked really, really good, and then he had moments where he didn't look good. But everything says that he's been light years better. Started in the spring, it's carried over into the fall. So from a development standpoint, I think that Justin Fry does a really, really good job.
Yeah, I want to point out two things. Number one, Fryer primarily before that had played guard. So he was on the interior. So then they kicked him out of necessity to tackle. I think his future is at guard in the NFL, personally, but he's doing what he can with what he's got. But and I was trying to recall too, I think he had repped a lot at left tackle, so then he had to switch to the right side. So there's a lot. Everything's different. Your kick step's different. Your hand placement's different. Your hips are different. I won't go into all that either. But yeah, I think Fry's done an adequate job or above average job at getting the guys ready. I think this year is going to be the tell of the tape because this will be his third full year. But I don't know. I'm really trying to maintain my thought around recruiting, especially in the NIL world, where it's not like it used to be. Because I want players that want to play at Ohio State to be at Ohio State because that's where they want to play. I can appreciate that you want to make money on your name, image, and likeness, and it, that it's not what it was originally intended for NIL. So that said, I am not in love with his recruiting prowess.
He needs to figure it out on the recruiting trail. So this is the other part. There's the development and then there's the recruiting. His strategy sucks. It's been an absolute disaster. It's been underwhelming at best. I understand why he may have thought this was a better strategy, but man, you need to adapt. You need to change. You need to be proactive rather than reactive. And my strategy I'm talking about is fewer offers and better relationships. It's absolute nonsense. Alabama and Georgia and all the big boys are offering way more players way earlier. There's this narrative that drives me nuts. that we have to slow play Ohio players because if we offer them, they'll commit right away.
That's what
Okay.
happened to Jalen Marshall. Like they've got in on him way too late because they thought they could just go, "Hey, come play with us."
Yeah. But number one, teams throw out offers all the time that are non-committable and have a contingency on them that, hey, listen, we need to see your senior tape. Georgia does that to in-state players. Alabama does that to in-state players. I don't understand why, there's this arrogance to our program that we feel that we think that people are going to automatically accept our. Dude, we're in a different world now.
Right.
The whole landscape of recruiting has changed. We've seen it with the skill players in Ohio this year, right? These kids are growing up and they have more exposure to more programs more often, 24/7, 365. It's just not the same that it used to be. So his recruiting strategy of fewer offers, it needs to change. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever that the top 4 or 5 linemen in the state of Ohio for 2026 don't have offers yet. Okay? There are reports that LaCharles Bentley, that Fry told Adam Guthrie that he wasn't big enough to play, or I'm sorry, Maxwell Riley, I think it was, one of those guys, that he wasn't big enough to play at Ohio State. Bentley lost his mind and called up Ryan, and they immediately extended an offer. You know what? They need the recruiting strategy needs to change. It's not working. Okay, he's not getting guys on campus for official visits. He's not getting, when you break down the numbers, and Jay Book did a really good job on Bucknuts this morning, and Juck has been on top of this as well. Juck's the one that actually started this whole narrative that's just caught wildfire. He's the one that broke down the numbers and started to raise awareness to what his strategy was. And Berm went as far as asking and confirming if that's what his strategy was: fewer offers, more relationships. And we were told yes.
Yeah.
It didn't work for 2025. And I'm not saying it didn't work because of who we have or I'm saying it didn't work because of the numbers. We have 2 offensive linemen right now.
Yep.
I give him 100% credit for Carter Lowe. People that don't give him credit for Carter Lowe, in my opinion, are idiots. And they're being unreasonable. Carter Lowe is in Toledo. His coaching staff are all Michigan fans. And Toledo is notoriously a battleground between Michigan and Ohio State.
Absolutely.
That's a win.
Yeah.
That is a win.
That's a big win
for Justin Fry. It's a huge win for Justin Fry. He not only did he get him, but he got him early and he's hung on to him.
Yep.
Okay. He's a fringe 5-star. He's literally 1 spot removed. I think he actually got his 5th star from somebody the other day. But his recruiting strategy, it's not working and it needs to change. With the number of scholarships that are going up, we can afford to offer some kids and have them accept early if that's the case. But this narrative that you have to accept an Ohio kid as soon as you make an offer, it's silly. It's nothing more than an excuse, and it needs to go away. His strategy needs to change in regards to who he's offering. If you there are plenty of guys within our region. We don't have to go coast to coast.
No.
If you look at the guys at Penn State always has a good line. Iowa always has a good line. Notre Dame always has a good line. They're getting those guys from the region, from the Midwest footprint, the 90% of them. And when you go and look at how many of those guys we haven't offered, it's just mind-blowing to me.
Yep.
So the strategy needs to change. So Sean, buddy, it's a multifaceted answer there. I think he's really strong in development. I don't think he gets enough credit for development. But I do think his recruiting strategy needs to change. He's not offering enough people early enough.
I agree with you 100%. So one of the things that jumped off the board to me, and I think it came from Juck and then J Book, is like, of the 17 like official visits that he managed to get kids to come in from other places, 3 have committed from. They're not from Ohio. One was the kid that he flipped from Northwestern. The other one was one we recently got. I can't remember. It was a 3-star kid, Cook. And then another one, but like that's not good enough. 3 for 17. You're not even, you won't stay in the big leagues with that in baseball, and you certainly like that's, and 17 seems like such a low number. I feel like it should be in the 40s, because then
It,
you know
it
it's
should be in the 40s. That's what Georgia and Alabama do. You're
yeah,
talking about the number of offers, right?
yes,
Dude, you've got Georgia and Alabama offering people in our backyard that we don't offer.
yep,
That's inexcusable.
yep,
I'm sorry, I don't understand the reasoning for that. It's inexcusable. And I just gave him props on development. LaCharles Bentley had a great tweet this week that started to rile a lot of this up again.
yeah,
And he said the problem with recruiting today is that everybody's looking for the genetic home run.
yeah,
And he goes, if I was recruited that way, I would have played at Akron and not OSU. I would have never got an offer at OSU. Think about this for a second. Charles Bentley, Hall of Fame center, future Hall of Fame center,
mm-hmm.
okay, is saying that if he was recruited the way they recruit offensive linemen today, he would have played at a MAC school. The development, I just gave him props on development.
Yep.
Get these guys in here. Get these Ohio road graders in here. These guys that respect the rivalry. These guys that live the rivalry. These guys that hate the team up north. Get them in there and freaking develop them.
Yeah, so I have the tweet pulled up. He said, there isn't an issue in college football recruiting culture. Schools trying to win the genetic lottery award. Today, I would have been at Akron, not OSU. That's an issue. Find players that are passionate about OSU. Get OSU dogs. Flip side, fans mad at staff when they don't land a 5-star. And then he has like a shy emoji.
Yeah. To his point, he said it's, he did say it's a no-win situation for today's coaches.
Yeah.
But they're doing it themselves, because if you get, in my opinion, if you get enough cycles where you get guys in and you get them developed,
yeah,
and that's something I want to caution everybody, is that I do think, as I've stated a couple times now, I do think Fry's developing well, and that's ultimately. I know people are going to say this contradicts what Ryan said, but Ryan, he's the one that put it out there that recruiting is the number one priority for all coaches. I do think the offensive line is a caveat to that, just because it is such a developmental position and there's not that many 5-stars out there. But his strategy needs to change.
Yeah, so I have the numbers up so we can reference them. So Ohio State has only 16 offensive line offers out for 2026. Georgia has 40. Bama has 36. Fry has only been able to convince 17 out-of-state offensive linemen for official visits, and he's only been able to close on 3: Miles Walker, Ian Moore, and Gabe Van Sickle, and 2 offensive linemen commits in this current class. So, yeah, therein lies the crux of the problem. 17 is a far cry from 40, and it's under half of what Bama has out. And Bama has a new coaching staff. So we like that I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'd love to know how many offers that we've put out to the defensive line for 25 and 26.
Oh gosh, tons.
I don't understand. So, why is he's, I don't get it. Like, he's overthinking it. Just go out and offer kids, get them in here and develop them.
Yep.
And block out the noise of people who complain about the star rating.
Yeah.
Okay. There were like 10 offensive linemen drafted in the NFL first round this past year, and one of them was a 5-star.
Yep.
There's 1 or 2 4-stars, and the rest were 3-stars. People aren't going to care if the line is performing. Okay, so, but you've got this perfect storm right now, right? You've got the recency bias of the Missouri game. You've got the fact that we've only got 2 guys in the class so far. We've got the fact that people think we just lost a guy to Georgia Tech, which
we didn't lose.
The amount of money they gave to a 3-year project was mind-blowing to me. I don't blame Fry on that.
Let me ask you this before we go off of that. Do you think that Petty would have been willing to sit 2 years and get built at Ohio State to be ready to play in the Big Ten, because that's what it was going to take? He was going to have to redshirt.
I think he's already answered that question for
us. That's my point. That's my point. Yeah. He was going to have to redshirt. The kid, no offense, but he is slight of frame for a tackle in the Big Ten. Like, he
Yeah.
He was smaller than the Armstrong twins.
Yeah.
And anyways, I don't want to get
I don't
off
know.
on that. I got really mad about it the other day.
We could talk about it ad nauseum. I'm sure it's going to be a topic of conversation. And then, also you got this issue with everybody thinking that, we've already lost David Sanders, which I'm calling it right now, and I'll call it before he makes his announcement tomorrow. I think we get David Sanders.
Well, I do have, since we're talking about David Sanders, let me see if I can get this to pull up, because I couldn't get it up earlier and it didn't want to pull up for me. All right, here it is. So it's still not working. Okay. Well, anyways, D. Sanchez this morning said, everyone's talking like Sanders is gone. I have faith. He's a Buckeye. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
ever argue with D. Sanchez. So
I don't argue with her either. I don't think she's been told that.
No.
I think the family's played it really, really close to the vest. But I agree with her. We need to have faith. I mean, if you look at logic, he has not told anybody no. Okay? All reports indicate he has not informed a single school that they're out of it.
Right.
Of his top 4.
Right.
And it's also been reported that he's told nobody yes, including Tennessee.
Correct.
So all these crystal balls and everything else, it's just all conjecture. It's just all social media,
engagement farming.
It's engagement farming. It's best guesses.
Yeah.
There are people. I'm not buying any of it. And
there are people that have Google alerts.
Tennessee.
Did you see on our comments? There are people that have Google alerts for the term David Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I check Twitter and Instagram enough. I don't need an alert.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like that's how big that's how much noise is. That's how much noise is going on right now around the David Sanders, and it's usually Tennessee fans that are all up in their feels about it. So
yeah, Tennessee may very well get him.
Yeah,
but anybody that's acting like they already know, is just they're lying.
Yeah.
That'd be like me saying what I just said. I think we're going to get him because I already know. Somebody told me. Nobody's told me that. I just think we've got him.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch topics to something to give you credit, Dan. So about 8 weeks ago, you said,
this is recorded.
Yeah, about 8 weeks ago, you said, Chad, don't forget about Mylan Graham. He's coming in the summer. And then I hear yesterday on the press conference, Mylan Graham graded out a champion out of the wide receiver room. So Dan, kudos to you, man. I knew Mylan Graham was good. He's a 5-star. Heartline recruited him for a reason. I'm always just overly cautious with kids that come in the summer. But here we are. Mylan Graham grades out a champion. So take your bow, man.
I think the kid's going to be special. I hope we see him in the return game this year.
Yeah. He did not get mentioned yesterday.
He didn't get mentioned yesterday. I think when Ryan, I think we got a little bit of Ryan yesterday when it came to the special teams. I find it really, really hard to believe that either Emeka or Trey are going to be returning kicks for
and
us.
Carnell.
I just,
and
even Carnell.
Yeah.
But the one that just stuck out to me was Trey, just because of the injury bug. Now, Pat was talking on the Morning Roast. Speaking of which, we are going to be live on the Morning Roast next Wednesday.
Oh, yes.
7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern with Ron and Q. They're doing a bang-up job, man. Their show is much watch in the morning for me now. So excited to join up with those guys next week because they know their stuff and they're fun to talk to. But anyways, Pat mentioned that, having Q here means that we can put somebody like Trey back there and not have to worry about him getting hurt. Number one, I don't know if that's in Trey's best interest.
No, I wouldn't say so.
From an NFL perspective. Number two, and if people don't think that NFL ramifications aren't taken into consideration for, college coaches, they're lying. And when you throw in the fact that a lot of these guys risked a lot to come back, they're going to think about things like that, right?
Sure.
But Um, you know, it was interesting that he mentioned the Mecca again with punts, and that he mentioned JJ.
Yeah.
But I'll be shocked if Brandon Innes is not the punt returner.
Yeah, so I nodded that down, jotted that down. So I had Ennis, and he also mentioned Ballard, and the Heartline will make some decisions around this. And I put Trey Henderson with like with the question mark, like what are we doing? Like why? So yeah, I don't know. That seems odd to me. So I think we did get a little bit of lip service yesterday, and not wanting to reveal, or for whatever reason, not wanting to be wholly honest with what's going on with the special teams in a return game.
I'd love to see Mylan Graham and Lorenzo Styles returning kicks. I wouldn't even have a problem, and this is probably going to shock you. I don't want him anywhere near punt returns.
Here we go.
If I see a fair catch on the 5-yard line out of this kid this season, I'm going to lose my mind. But I wouldn't have a problem giving Ballard a shot at kick returns either, just because of that straight line speed.
Yeah.
Like,
he can get up the field quick. Yeah.
He can use that more on kickoff returns.
Yeah.
Than he would now if he's not patient enough to follow his blockers and he just takes off, then that is going to prevent him from doing that. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
Okay. Some things
they didn't mention.
What's that?
You know who they didn't mention in the return game?
I didn't catch it.
Caleb Downs.
Oh, yeah. Well, I put that out of my mind. I know that everybody would like to see that, and maybe they will. Maybe they'll. Do you remember what was your year? Was it? I think it was 2006. They had Ted Ginn and Brian Hartline back deep for punts a lot. Yeah, so you could see something like that, I guess.
Yeah. I'm looking at the notes. Did he mention Ballard with the punt return yesterday? I thought he mentioned Emeka, Innis, and JJ.
He said that Ballard's in the mix, kind of at the end of his like little sentences, and
the kid doesn't need to be anywhere near punt return.
Yeah. So the punting thing was interesting to me because we have 3 punters on the roster currently.
I got nothing for you on this, man.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that, I don't know why I think I'm just thinking about punts, that it's up in the air, but he said,
okay, Tressel.
Yeah. Just thinking about punt. Hey man, I'm of that era, man. I love trestle ball. Anyways, so he wants him to get the ball off in 1.9 seconds, hang time of no less than 4 seconds, distance of 40 to 49 yards consistently. So, smart money is on the kid that came from Buffalo. However, whatever. But I think we're all enamored with the 6'11" Australian rugby punter McClarty. He did mention that all 3 of them can rugby style kick too. So
6'7", 255.
Yeah, I know. I just was embellishing a little bit, but yeah. And he's our 5th string tight end as well. So all right. So I'm gonna flash over to the defense real quick. Go ahead.
Hold on a second. Let's talk about that. We've got to let that kid run a fake this year. Like, who's going to want to come up off of a punt return team and tackle that kid coming around the edge? Think about that for a second. If he's got any sort of rugby mentality in him, and he's a tough kid, it's got to be in the game. It's got to be in the bag.
If it's in the game.
It's in the game.
Yeah. Hey, only if it's against Rutgers, so I can see Shiano and Day yell at each other and point fingers. Yeah. That might have been one of the most exciting things that happened in that Rutgers game. So, anyways,
10-2 Rutgers.
10-2 Rutgers, man. I'm not crazy. I'm not. People are like on board with this now. Like, people are talking about it. National people are talking about it. I'm not crazy.
Their schedule sets up for a good year.
I'm not crazy. They'll be the 11th seed for the playoffs. So on the defensive side of the ball, I want to get your opinion. So some of the things I heard, Arvell Reese, freak athlete, Mitch Melton, and then not surprising at all to me, the Caden McDonald, Caden Curry. So Dan, where are you with this? I want to ask you this. So I have not heard much about Kenyatta Jackson, so I'm teeing you up with this because you had this already as one of your like earmarked bullet point things for the year. If Kenyatta isn't getting it done in like the backup position, and Edric Houston is pushing, he's a 5-star, looks the part. You know, we've already said he's probably going to get some run. Where are you thinking that like, hey, we kind of bail on the Kenyatta Jackson experiment and we're all in on Edric, and Edric's probably the guy next year?
I mean, up until yesterday, Kenyatta was getting some love in some of the pressers.
Yeah, but
I think he got dinged up.
okay.
I think he may have hurt his ankle, maybe going into the scrimmage.
Okay.
So maybe that's why we didn't hear anything about him this
That
week.
could be.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know that for a fact.
Man,
I'm just asking you.
I am taking a wait and see approach when it comes to the rotation on the defensive side of the ball this year, because until I see it, I don't trust it.
Yeah,
Arvell could be this year's CJ, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they basically said the same thing about CJ Hicks last year.
Yeah,
and then we barely saw the kid on the field.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you this then. Something else that he mentioned, Hero Canoe is another person, but we have not heard a rip about Tywon Malone. Everybody was hyped up last year when he came in from Ole Miss, going to only focus on football. Thought maybe we had another Iggy situation. How would you feel about sliding Caden Curry inside and having a Rushman package with Mitch Melton, Caden Curry, Caden McDonald, and Jack Sawyer or JT Tulimoloau, whatever?
I mean, a Rushman package.
Rushman package.
I'd rather slide Talik over the nose.
Okay.
I'd rather slide JT and Jack inside. And then I'd want to see Mitchell Melton.
Yeah, I want Melton on the field.
And somebody like maybe a Sonny
or CJ.
Yeah, I mean Sonny's bigger. I just think Sonny's going to end up playing on the edge in the NFL.
He's huge. My goodness, that guy! Like his arms, like my goodness.
Or that's a great spot for an Arvell too. You know, because there was questions last year whether he was going to
end or linebacker. Yeah,
end or linebacker, right? Yeah. I mean,
okay,
6'4", 240.
Yeah, that defense, man. Gosh, the depth and talent on that defense, it's sick. I mean, it is. Like there are guys that like. I originally thought, gosh, man, you know, if JT decides not to come back or Jack decides not to come back, oh gosh, where are we at? You know, what are we going to do? Man, are they deep? Man, oh man. In the secondary, it's even, goodness, man. I'm excited for that defense. I probably, I'm not gonna say probably. I underestimated our defense when we went through what we thought scores would be early in the spring, and you were like, you have them giving up way too many points, and you're going to end up being right. So, yeah, I got to give you credit for that one too. But the Mylan Graham thing, I felt like.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the Mylan Graham thing had to be like my smile when I found out Luke Montgomery was repping at center for the Mylan Graham thing for you. So.
Yeah, no, Mylan, I think that kid's going to be special for us.
Yeah. And my last little note, Dan, was that he also gave a nod to Kojo Antwi, which I thought,
dude, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
I messaged that in the morning roast chat this morning. Listen, I was only there for 4 practices. Every single day I saw that kid drop multiple passes, and there was one day where he must have had 4 or 5 drops. So I mean, I don't, that just really caught me as an odd shout out.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they've had 10 practices since then, including a scrimmage.
Yep.
So maybe he's turned it around.
Yeah. And no mention of Bryson Rogers, which Bryson Rogers was kind of my sleeper, you know, could end up being that 5th wide receiver in the rotation. And very quiet, very quiet. So interesting.
I still think he's the fifth guy.
Okay.
Maybe they bump Ballard ahead of him just because of seniority.
That's kind of where I'm at with it.
But
so.
I think Bryson, I think he's got a really good future for us.
Okay. Well, any other takeaways from you from the presser? That was kind of my whole of the sum. I thought, I will tell you, and I'll be candid, I thought that was the most authentic, candid Ryan Day that we've had since he's been here. I thought he was fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of another time when I've watched a press conference where I didn't feel like he was giving us the Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. You know how I feel about Ryan.
Yeah.
I think he's a politician. Denzel Burke thinks the same thing. He said as much in a Discord space. But he definitely seems to have, my chips are all in type mentality this year.
Mm-hmm.
I do think he wanted to not have the same thing happen last year as this year, and he wanted to be more decisive. I think and because of that, I think he may have came off a little over decisive, if that makes sense, from what some things that we know.
Yeah.
But it's all right. I mean, if Ryan's here's the biggest thing. If Ryan carries the assassin mentality into the games,
mm-hmm.
then it's going to be a glorious season. If we get the 2019 Clemson or 2020 Clemson rather, even 2019, there were like a lot of points left on the field at the beginning that were not his fault. They were great play calls. And JK had 2 drops?
Yeah.
In walk-in touchdowns. Well, one was in the end zone and the other one was a walk-in. So if we get that Ryan Day, the Clemson Ryan Day or the UGA Ryan Day.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he's not the one calling plays, but if his mentality is similar in the other facets of the game,
doubt.
This is going to be a glorious, glorious season.
Yeah. Well, if he really truly means what he says with leave no doubt, then let's go. I'm all in behind that. So
he says leave no doubt, and then in the next breath he talks about matchup games. And when I hear that phrase matchup,
I know
game,
my butt puckers.
It does. It's a tight sphincter, man. It's just that's what I think of when I hear him say matchup game. I just think conservative, a conservative game plan. Just need to let it rip, man.
Yep, I agree with you.
Because this defense will cover up a couple mistakes every game from the offense. And with Chip Kelly calling plays, this offense is going to hit way more than they miss.
Right on. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this Buckeye Friday. We got a starting quarterback. Probably know who our starting right guard is. A few things in flux, like the punter, if you really care. But don't forget, like and subscribe. Get entered for the $50 gift card to Buckeye Corner for the first 500 subscribers. Wednesday, going to be on with Ron and Q, so don't miss that. If you enjoy, Buckeyes early in the morning. I'm not sure how well I'll perform. I'm not a super early morning person, but we'll give it a shot. And Dan's the star of the show anyway, so I'm just the IT guy.
About that. I'll be on with Juck tomorrow.
Yep.
And man, if you're still listening at this point, first of all, thank you, and second of all, please hit that subscribe button and the like button.
And don't forget to comment. We love the comments.
Yeah, we try to engage with all the comments. I mean, we get way more views than we have subscriptions and likes, so that really does help us out.
Yeah, I think we've had a couple shows that went in the 7,000 view range, and nowhere near that many subscribers. So, anyways, thank you guys. Appreciate you. Enjoy your weekend. It is officially the last weekend without college football, so of some sort. So enjoy it. It's going to be rainy here, but y'all stay safe. See ya. Go Bucks.